All right, so today for pre-algebra class, we will be continuing on with one-step equations. And today we will be including some decimals. So this will be an Edpuzzle, and it'll be due today, which is January 5th. So here's a little bit of a review. Opposite operations, or also known as inverse operations, is what we use when we do one-step equations. Those operations are adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So the opposite of adding is subtracting. The opposite of subtracting is adding. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. And the opposite of dividing is multiplication. So when you do the opposite operation, they undo each other. And our main goal for these one-step equations is to get the variable, which is x, alone on one side of the equation. So we want to know what x will equal. So our first problem here says we are going to be solving for x. And remember, we are trying to get x alone on one side of the equation. So since we are trying to get x alone, what I like to do is draw a line down my equal sign. What this will do is separate my equation into two halves. And now we just want to try and get x alone on this side. So we are going to use inverse or opposite operations. Our equation is x minus 6.5 equals 10.5. So the first thing I'm going to ask myself is, what is the opposite of x minus 6.5? We want to get x alone. So the opposite of minus 6.5 would be to add 6.5. So we are going to add 6.5 to both sides of our equation. And now that we have it on both sides, these cancel each other out. And that leaves us with just x on the left side. And now we just need to add 10.5 plus 6.5 equals 17. So x would equal 17. What I did there was I used the opposite operation of minus 6.5, did it to both sides, got x alone, and then added up our decimals to get x equals 17. Moving on, 12.2 plus x equals 14.5. Start by drawing our line down our equal sign, because that's going to separate it into two halves. On the left-hand side, we have 12.2 plus x. And then on the right-hand side, we have equals 14.5. So we want to try and get this x alone. So how am I going to get x alone? I'm going to use the opposite operation for 12.2. Well, 12.2, there's no negative symbol behind there, so I know 12.2 is positive. How am I going to, or what is the opposite, I should say? What is the opposite of positive 12.2? The opposite would be to minus 12.2. So we're going to subtract 12.2 from each side of our equal sign. 12.2 minus 12.2, those cancel each other out. So now we have x alone. Don't forget our equal sign. And x equals 14.5 minus 12.2. We just have to subtract those. When we subtract 12.2 from 14.5, we would get 2.3. So x would equal 2.3. When it comes time to your assignment, you would just type your answer in this box. So 2.3. Moving on, Now we have some different operations. I see this equation says 2.5x equals 5. And 2.5x, that's also known as multiplication. That can also be said as 2.5 times x. So if we are multiplying 2.5, what is the opposite of multiplying? The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So if we multiplied 2.5, we're going to do the opposite. We will divide by 2.5. And we draw this little line, that is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 2.5. Those cancel each other out. Now we're just left with x on the left side. And now we just need to divide. 5 divided by 2.5. How many times does 2.5 go into 5? 2.5 goes into 5 2 different times. So we would know x would equal 2. So this one, we had multiplication, so we used the opposite, which was division. Moving on, we have 1 or 2 more practice problems, and then there's going to be some homework for you guys to do. So, this is hard to read too. This is supposed to be an x. There we go. So x divided by 5.2 equals 5. Start by drawing our line all the way down. We know we have division here. We're dividing by 5.2. So what would be the opposite of dividing by 5.2? The opposite of dividing by 5.2 would be to multiply by 5.2. That's our multiplication symbol. And what we do to that side of the equation, we also have to do to the left side. So we're going to multiply both sides by 5.2. Those cancel each other out. Now we're just left with our x on the one side. And that's what our goal is. We're trying to get x alone. Now we just need to solve 5.0 times 5.2. If we think back to our multiplying decimals unit, we can write them out. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Add a 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 5 is 25. Add them up. 0, 0, 6, 2. And we have 1, 2 digits to the right of our decimals. So we're going to count in 1, 2. So x would equal 26. So we did the opposite of dividing by 5.2, which was to multiply by 5.2. We did it to the left side of the equation and to the right. All right, so this will be your guys' homework. This will be posted on Schoology for you guys to do. So if you have a printer at home, you can print these out to do your work, or else you can copy them on a blank piece of paper, work through them, and then type your answer in the box once you get it. So just remember you're using inverse or opposite operations, and our goal is to try and get x alone on one side of the equation. If you have any questions, please send me an email and we can set up a Google Meet.